It has been about 5 weeks since I updated this guy. And I know I'm not going to do any work on it just now, but I do think it's looking at one of its best points right now. The leaves are nice and small. Got the wire on there. By the time I get ready to do any work, it'll be grown out a lot more. The leaves will be really big. So, thought I'd just bring it in for a quick shoot here, and then we'll hop in the hot tub time machine and check it out when I'm ready to do some work on it again. And I'll just include this video at the very beginning. Alright, so we have hopped in the hot tub time machine, and this thing has really gotten pretty hairy. Got some really big leaves on there. And because I'm pretty new still, just in the hobby and everything, I prune whatever I have down to nothing. And then when it gets kind of, hairy and out of control, I go ahead and cut it back down to nothing again, and then I'll let it go, and so on and so forth. But I think to kind of get to the next level, I need to start trying to take some of my material that's in a shape like it is right here, and just kind of be able to get in there. A lot of these branches in some spots I'd rather not have them, and some are coming from some really good spots. And so I figure, if I take out the ones that I really don't want to, leave on there forever, and leave the better ones will develop a little bit more. Some of these are just like this one here is just a really long shoot kind of coming out of the bottom there, out of nowhere, not really serving any purpose. Those all look pretty good, although there is a lot of straight up growth. And another reason I've been just kind of thinking about doing this too is I really can't even, it's getting to the point where I can't even really get in there and check on the wire anymore. This is just so overgrown. This one is it's one of these longer shoots. I'll just kind of slow that down just a little bit. And take off some of the older leaves so I can at least see in there just a little bit better. This one is on the end of that branch where I want to keep it, but it was just growing straight up. And again, if you just tip prune and leave the leaves on there, this one I just took off a few of the older leaves, but if you leave the leaves on there, it actually gives better back budding opportunity there. It's got a good branch going towards the back there, but then there's a couple going straight up. And of course, trying to get in here and be a little more selective like this at this point is a lot more time consuming than just going in there and cutting everything. There's one going straight up. Straight up and straight up. So that one has a few coming off to the side. I'll leave the ones going off to the side, get the ones coming straight up off there. And then here's just a long shoot off the end. It's a good spot that I want to leave. This one's coming right straight out of the bottom, so I want to take that off. Already you can start to see in there just a little bit better. Not much though. It is pretty overgrown. But I didn't want to cut it down to nothing until the wire's ready to take off. The wire's just now starting to bite, and I'm just actually starting to see the real value of letting it really bite in. So I don't want to take it off just yet. Some of these that look like they're almost coming straight up are actually coming out in good spots, and they're just growing straight up because of the, just tendency to reach for the sun. Leave some of that on there to get some secondary branching for the next time I feel like getting some wire on it. That branch is kind of growing into itself there a little bit. teach myself with experience just a little bit here or whatever, and then when you look up diagrams of, you know, how to properly prune things or whatever, they always talk about the straight up, straight down branches and the branches coming out of crotches and everything. But this is one of the things that I'm just trying to kind of teach myself and just get used to here, and that is try to figure out when to just let the apex crown itself out and not really worry about what's growing straight up. Something's got to be growing straight up there. This one that I actually had wired down as being its own branch, and then this one I probably just anchored that branch with it there, and the rest of it up here is, like I said, kind of the apex. I'd like to maybe just tone it down just a little bit. And now that I did get into the rest of the tree there and just kind of open it up just a little bit, should let some more air and light in there. Cut back that apex some. Where's that going from? That's actually kind of coming straight down out of it. I imagine I'm probably going to go back and watch this video and see like 4 or 5 other little twigs I should have cut off. These here, I see this now, these are coming straight up. Alright, and just kind of taking a second look at some of these. I missed a growing tip here in the apex. I would like to save this as a branch and save this as the apex, but I feel like if I don't cut these growing tips off here, it's going to send all of its energy to those, and I'll kind of wind up with a competing apex. I don't really want to do that, so I'll cut some of those off there. Also, I've been kind of coming through trying to be careful and leaving some of the kind of the growing tips on the branches I wanted to save, but now that I've just kind of seen what I'm doing and I know I'm not cutting off any more branches, just kind of cutting off some of the longer ones. And sometimes if you just nip just the tip off, it'll just start growing right there again, but it does seem to help build a little bit of taper. And this wire right here is biting just a bit. And some of them are. So I'm thinking probably somewhere in the winter time I'm going to wind up having to take the wire off. But this tree is really turning out really well. I think next spring I'm going to either raise the rock up more in the pot here, still see where I still had some of the original cutting, some potting soil there or whatever. Most of it's growing, you know, clasping the rock pretty good like I'd like it to. The bigger part here is kind of resting on it, which is okay. But I had a huge sacrifice branch coming right out of right there. I don't know if I'll be able to attach any pictures or not for this one, but it was coming out of right there. And then I had the other part of the tree actually here that was much taller. I cut that part off because it just had no taper to it, and it was just straight as well as, and it was way too thick to try to get any bends in. Left this piece here. Haven't really got any bends in it, but at least now I've got some more branching. It had a big bare spot, and it had like an apex like way up here. But I think overall, considering what I started with, I just started with a little cutting in a pot. And, you know, I did have to get that sacrifice branch, was at least a good 1/2 inch diameter there or whatever. You can still see the scar, but it's kind of really already gotten unnoticeable just because of how gray it's turned and everything. But